When I pulled into the driveway that day, I swear my heart froze. My whole life was lying out there on the lawn. My clothes, my shoes, old photos of my late husband, even my mama's shawl she knitted before she passed, all dumped beside the flowers I'd planted with my own hands. I stood there, still in my black funeral dress, the smell of dirt and withered roses still clinging to me from my sister Grace's grave in Phoenix. I'd just buried her after 6 long months of watching her fade away. My soul was barely holding on, and all I wanted was a hug, a kind word, maybe a cup of tea with my son Robert. But instead, I got silence. Then the front door swung open, and out came Danielle, my daughter-in-law, looking like she'd just stepped out of a boutique catalog. Hair perfect, nails done, not a single worry on her face. "Oh, Mom," she said, fake sweet as honey gone bad. We decided to do a deep clean. All that old stuff was just taking up space. Old stuff. That old stuff was my life, my family, my memories. I could feel my hands shaking, but I just whispered, "Those are my things, Danielle. My husband's photos, my kids' baby records." "Oh, I know." She cut me off with a little wave, like I was some fly buzzing in her perfect kitchen. "But we needed the space. Didn't Robert tell you? I'm 3 months pregnant." That hit me like a punch to the chest. Pregnant? And this is how I find out, standing in the yard like a stranger in my own home. "Where's Robert?" I asked, trying not to let my voice break. "At work," she said, almost smirking. "But don't worry, we left you a spot. Come on, I'll show you." She led me around back to the old utility room. When she opened that door, my heart just about stopped. 6 feet by 6 feet, damp walls, one dusty little window, and a folding cot with a stained mattress. "You can stay here," she said cheerfully. "We just need you to be discreet. You know, with the baby coming, we can't have too much stress." That's when something in me snapped. I looked at her, calm but burning inside. "You're right, Danielle," I said. "It's time for a clean out, a real one." Her smile faltered. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't used in years. "Mr. Mendez, my lawyer." "What are you doing?" Danielle asked, that sweetness gone from her voice. "Exactly what you suggested," I told her. "Cleaning up." When he picked up, I said, "Mr. Mendez, I need to see you tomorrow morning. It's urgent." Danielle was glaring at me now, like a cat cornered. "Are you okay?" my lawyer asked. "No," I said softly, "but I'm going to be." That night, Robert came home late. I waited, hoping he'd knock on my door, ask how I was holding up, but he didn't. So around midnight, I went to him. I knocked softly. "Robert, son, we need to talk." He opened the door just a crack, like I was some stranger. He looked tired, thin, eyes sunken. "Mom, it's late," he whispered. "Late, Robert. They threw out all my things. They put me in a storage closet. And you didn't even tell me your wife's pregnant." He sighed. "Mom, please, don't make this harder. We need the space. Things are changing." "Changing?" I repeated. "Robert, I bought this house with 40 years of hard work. I gave it to you so you'd have a home. I know, Mom, but Danielle's my family now. My priority. You always told me a man's wife comes first. Not like this." I wanted to scream, but he closed the door before I could say another word. That moment, something inside me turned cold. Not dead, just colder, sharper. The sadness started to harden into something else. Resolve. I sat in that damp little room and pulled out an old notebook. I'd kept track of every expense since I'd given Robert the house. As I flipped through those pages, my hands began to tremble. The numbers didn't add up. Thousands gone. $45,000 vanished in just months. And when I checked my old savings account, one I'd left for Robert, for emergencies, my heart nearly stopped. $60,000, reduced to less than 9. My son had drained it. By the time dawn crept in, I had cried every tear I had. Then I went to my neighbor, Miss Lucy, the only person who still looked at me like I mattered. Her kitchen smelled like biscuits and hope. "Honey," she said softly, "I didn't want to tell you before, but yes, I've seen things. Danielle's been selling your old furniture, the good ones. I saw her counting cash when those movers took your mother's pieces away." My heart dropped. Those weren't just furniture pieces. They were memories carved in wood, history polished by hands that loved me. I walked home in silence, but something inside me was no longer weak. They thought they'd erased me, but they didn't know. The house was still in my name, and I was done playing nice. The next morning, I stood tall, dressed in my black funeral dress, hair tied tight. When I stepped into Mr. Mendez's office, I wasn't the same woman who'd cried on a folding bed. He listened quietly as I told him everything, every betrayal, every dollar, every insult. When I was done, he said, "Carol, this is serious, but listen carefully. The house is still legally yours. You can revoke their right to stay there any time." For the first time in weeks, I felt my spine straighten. "So I can take it back anytime you want," he said. "And as for the money, if Robert took it without permission, that's misappropriation. Technically, it's family fraud." My hands clenched. "I don't want to see my son in jail," I said, "but I want justice." Mr. Mendez nodded. "Then we'll do this by the book. Step 1, secure your accounts. Step 2, document everything. Step 3, serve them notice." When I walked out of that office, the Chicago sun felt different, brighter, warmer. For the first time in a long time, I felt powerful. I bought myself a coffee, sat in the park, and thought, they have no idea what's coming. They thought they'd broken me, but they were wrong. I wasn't broken. I was reborn. That night, as I carried groceries back into the house, I heard Danielle's laugh echoing through the living room. Her parents were there too, the Armstrongs, dressed up like royalty, ready to judge me again. "Mom," Danielle sang out when she saw me, "join us for dinner. We've got things to discuss." I knew exactly what that meant. I sat down at that dinner table, the same one I'd bought years ago at a flea market, polished every Sunday, shared birthdays and Christmases around. Danielle stood there, smiling that fake pageant smile as she dished out food like she was hosting some fancy dinner show. Her parents, the Armstrongs, sat across from me, her mother with her chin tilted up like she smelled something rotten, her father pretending he was running the meeting of the century. Robert sat beside them, quiet, his eyes fixed on his plate. He couldn't even look at me. "So," Mr. Armstrong said, cutting into his chicken, "Danielle tells us there's been some misunderstandings lately." I gave a slow, deliberate smile. "That's one way to put it." Mrs. Armstrong leaned forward. "My daughter says you feel displaced, but you have to understand, young people need their own space. especially now, with the baby coming. The baby, I said softly. The one I found out about after my belongings were thrown onto the lawn. The table went quiet for a second, until Danielle spoke up, still pretending to be the perfect hostess. Oh, Mom, let's move past that, okay? It was just a mix-up. A mix-up. That's what she called throwing my life in the dirt. Mr. Armstrong smiled politely. Well, I think it's very generous of Robert and Danielle to let you stay there. Not every family would. I clenched my fork. Generous. They were sitting in my house, eating on my table, with my dishes, calling themselves generous. Mrs. Armstrong chimed in again. And really, at your age, you should be thinking about something more comfortable. There are wonderful retirement homes, you know, with nurses' activities. People your age. There it was. The truth behind that fancy dinner. They were trying to push me out. I looked straight at Robert. You agree with this? He swallowed, finally looking up. Mom, I just want peace. Danielle's stressed with the pregnancy. We're just trying to make things easier. Easier. I repeated, trying not to raise my voice. By sending me to a nursing home. Danielle jumped in quickly. It's not like that. They're luxury communities, Mom. You'd love it. I'm not going anywhere, I said flatly. The silence that followed was heavy. Mr. Armstrong cleared his throat. Well, if that's how you feel, we should also talk about the money situation. Danielle mentioned there's been some confusion with the bank accounts. Ah, there it was. The real reason for this little family dinner. There's no confusion, I said calmly. I changed the passwords. That's all. Danielle dropped her fork, loud enough for the sound to echo. You what? That money was mine, I continued, and I should have protected it from the start. Mom, Robert said sharply, that money was for the family. No, I said, feeling heat rise in my chest. It was my retirement fund. 40 years of cleaning offices, scrubbing floors, working through back pain and grief. And you spent it without my permission. Danielle's face went red. We used it to improve the house. This house doesn't need improving, I said, standing. It's mine, and it always has been. Her mouth fell open. What do you mean? I mean the deed was never transferred, I said. Legally, this house is still in my name. Every room, every brick, every inch. Mrs. Armstrong's fork froze in midair. Mr. Armstrong's face went pale, and Robert just sat there, his eyes wide. Tell me she's lying, Danielle said, turning to Robert, panic creeping into her voice. Tell me you filed the papers. Robert stared at the table. I never got around to it. The silence was thick enough to choke on. Danielle slammed her hand against the table. You told me this house was yours. You said it was your wedding gift. Well, I said coldly. He lied. Her mother gasped. This is outrageous. You're a terrible woman. What kind of mother does this to her son? I looked at her, my voice steady as stone. The kind of mother who's done being disrespected. The kind who taught her children about honesty and hard work, but refuses to be a doormat when they forget those lessons. I turned and walked away. Behind me, Danielle's voice broke into sobs. Robert tried to calm her, and her parents shouted. I closed the door to my tiny room and leaned against it, my heart pounding. For the first time, they'd seen me not as a broken old woman, but as someone who still had power. That night, Robert knocked on my door, hard. Mom, please, open up. I stayed silent. Danielle's having a breakdown, he pleaded. The doctor said stress could hurt the baby. I finally opened the door. Robert stood there, disheveled, eyes red. Mom, please, don't do this. You can't just kick us out. I looked at him, calm and cold. I gave you everything, Robert. A home, money, trust. And you threw it back in my face. It was Danielle's idea. You knew, I snapped. You knew and did nothing. You closed the door in my face the night I came back from burying my sister. Tears filled his eyes. I was wrong, Mom. Please forgive me. I'll fix it, I swear. No, son, I said softly. You'll take responsibility. Tomorrow you're coming with me to Mr. Mendez's office. We'll sign a new contract, one with rules. You'll pay rent, and Danielle will pay back every cent she took. Robert nodded, defeated. Whatever you say. Good, I said, stepping aside. Now go. I'm tired. Before leaving, he looked up at me with a trembling voice. Do you hate me, Mom? I shook my head slowly. No, Robert, but I don't recognize you anymore. The next morning, we met at the lawyer's office. Danielle came too, hiding behind dark glasses and fake tears. Mr. Mendez didn't waste time. As of now, he said, placing the documents on the desk, the house belongs solely to Mrs. Carol Rodriguez. You two live there by her permission, not by right. Danielle's mask slipped. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said, is stealing from someone who gave you everything. Then came the money, $45,000 gone. Mr. Mendez turned to Robert. These withdrawals were made with your card. Robert looked at Danielle. You told me we could use it. You said it was our money, she snapped back. I raised my voice, firm and trembling. That money was my future, my security, and you spent it like water. They both went silent. Then Mr. Mendez added, and about the antique furniture, how much did you sell it for? Robert muttered, $1,500. $1,500. I almost laughed. Those pieces were worth 10 times that. They were your grandmother's. They were just old furniture, Danielle muttered. I stepped forward, my voice shaking with anger. Just old furniture. My grandmother brought that from Philadelphia in 1952. My mother polished it every Sunday. I raised you around that table, Robert. You ate your first birthday cake on it. How dare you call it junk? Danielle started crying again, crocodile tears this time. I turned to Mr. Mendez. I want them out. Start the eviction. Robert panicked. Mom, please. We'll have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me, I said quietly. Mrs. Carroll, said Mr. Mendez. They have 30 days to vacate, or you can offer them a lease. I looked at Robert's face, so broken, so lost, and I sighed. You'll stay, I said, but you'll pay rent, $1 in $200 a month, and repay the $45,000 in installments. Miss one payment, and you're gone. Danielle glared at me, her voice dripping venom. You'll regret this. You'll never see your grandchild. You'll die alone, bitter and hated. I smiled softly. Maybe, but I'll die with my dignity. When we left, they drove off in silence. I stood there, feeling the cold Chicago wind hit my face. I had my house back, but I'd lost something deeper, my son. Still, I knew I couldn't stop now, because life wasn't done testing me. 3 days later, I woke up with a pain in my chest, so sharp it felt like the end. I tried to stand, but the room spun. My heart pounded, my breath short. I hit the wall with my hand, trying to make noise. Once, twice. Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital bed. The smell of antiseptic, the sound of machines beeping. "You had a mild heart attack," the nurse said softly. "You're lucky to be alive. Your neighbor, Miss Lucy, found you just in time." Tears filled my eyes. That woman had saved me again. "Your family's been notified," the nurse added. "2 of your children are outside, the ones from Denver and Austin, and Robert." I whispered. She hesitated. "He was notified 7 hours ago. He hasn't come." My heart broke again, not from sickness, but from truth. When my other 2 children came in, their faces were pale with worry. "Mom," Marianne said, holding my hand tight, "why didn't you tell us what was going on?" I told them everything. The house, Danielle, the money, the humiliation. By the time I finished, my daughter was shaking with rage. "I'm calling him," she said. "I'm calling Robert right now." She called. He didn't answer. Again, nothing. That night, Marianne looked at me with tears in her eyes. "When you leave this hospital, you're not going back there. You're coming with me." I smiled weakly. "I can't, honey." "Yes, you can," she said firmly. "You've done enough for everyone. Now it's our turn to take care of you." And for the first time in a long while, I let someone take my hand and hold it without fighting back. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't over yet, because Robert wasn't done, and what he did next would shake everything again. 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, life finally started feeling quiet again. I had rented a tiny apartment across town, using the rent money from the old building my late husband left me. It wasn't much. A small kitchen, 1 sunny window, a rocking chair by the door, but it was mine. Peaceful, safe. I'd decorate it with plants, the smell of coffee in the mornings, and for the first time in years, I could breathe without looking over my shoulder. Then one afternoon, someone started banging on the door, hard. "Mom! Mom, please! I know you're in there." I froze. That voice, I knew it. Robert. Part of me wanted to ignore him, but the mother in me, the part that never stops caring, just couldn't. I opened the door a crack. He stood there, thinner, eyes dark like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Mom," he whispered, "I need to talk to you." "I'm not supposed to have stress," I said calmly. "Doctor's orders." I know," he said quickly, his voice cracking. "If I'd known you were sick, I would have come. You were notified," I said quietly. 7 hours before your siblings. You didn't come." He blinked, shame filling his face. "Danielle told me you were lying. She said you were just trying to get attention. I believed her, and I'm so sorry." That cut deep. He begged, "Please, Mom, just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I opened the door. He walked in, looking around the small apartment. "It's nice," he said softly. "Smaller than the old place, but warm." "It's what I can afford without stealing from myself," I said. He sat down on the couch, rubbing his hands together. "Mom, I came to say I was wrong about everything, about Danielle, about the house, about the way I treated you." His voice trembled. "You didn't deserve any of that. I thought I was doing the right thing, standing by my wife, but I destroyed everything in the process." I stood still, watching him crumble. "So what are you going to do about it?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "I don't know. Danielle's out of control. She's angry all the time. She says I ruined her life. She says you turned me against her. She She threatens to leave with the baby. The baby? I asked, my tone sharp. You sure there even is one? He frowned. Of course there is. Why would you? Never mind, I said. Robert, listen to me. If that woman's bringing nothing but pain into your life, then you need to make a choice. You either stay and live with the chaos you created, or you walk away and rebuild yourself. He buried his face in his hands. I can't. She's pregnant. I leaned forward. When your father died, I was 7 months pregnant with your brother. I went to work 2 weeks later to keep a roof over your heads. If I could survive that, you can survive walking away from a toxic woman. He looked up, tears streaming down. You don't love me anymore, do you? I took a deep breath, my voice trembling but steady. I'll always love you, Robert. You're my son. But love doesn't mean blind forgiveness. Trust has to be earned. And right now, you've got a long road ahead. He nodded, eyes down. Then I'll start walking it. He stood, wiping his face. Mom, when the baby's born, will you come see him? I hesitated. If you invite me with respect, and Danielle can look me in the eye without hate, then yes, I'll be there. He nodded again, whispered, "Thank you," and walked out. I closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. My heart hurt, but not from weakness. This time it was strength, because I had finally learned that loving your child doesn't mean letting them destroy you. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. But before dawn, my phone rang. It was Marianne, my daughter. Mom, are you awake? I am now, I said, half smiling. I just got a call from someone, she said, her voice tight. Danielle's mother. I sat up. What? She wants to meet with you. Says she has information you need to know. About Danielle. My gut twisted. Information. She wouldn't say what. Just that it's serious. I told her we'll meet tomorrow. And I'm flying in. I'm not letting you do this alone. When Marianne said something, she meant it. She was on a plane by morning. We met the next day at a small cafe downtown. Danielle's mother, Beatrice Armstrong, walked in right on time. But she looked nothing like the polished, sharp-tongued woman from before. Her hair was messy, her face pale, and her hands shook as she set her purse down. Thank you for coming, she said in a broken voice. I folded my arms. You weren't so thankful last time we met. I know, she whispered, and I'm sorry, but you need to hear the truth about my daughter. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside were papers, photos, and printed messages. My daughter, she said slowly, is not pregnant. She never was. The air went out of my lungs. What? She can't have children, Beatrice continued. Hasn't been able to since she was 18. She lied to Robert. I looked at her, stunned. Marianne took the papers, scanning quickly. They were medical reports, prescriptions, even text messages. One of them read, Mom, Robert's so happy about the baby. I told him I'm 3 months along. Beatrice's reply, Danielle, you can't do this. It's wrong. And Danielle's final message, he'll never find out. I'll fake a miscarriage later. By then, I'll be secure. I felt the world spin again, not from sickness, but from rage. You're saying, I whispered, she lied about being pregnant, just to stay in that house. Yes, Beatrice said. She's done it before, 3 times, with 3 different men. It always starts the same. She pretends to be pregnant, drains them of money, and leaves when the truth starts closing in. But with Robert, she saw something bigger, a house, stability, a name. Marianne slammed her hand on the table. So she used my brother. Beatrice nodded, crying now. She's a compulsive liar, a compulsive shopper, buried in debt, $23,000 in credit cards. She used Robert's money to pay it off. She even sold your mother's furniture, Mrs. Carroll, to cover her bills. I closed my eyes. All the pieces fit now. The lies, the money, the furniture, the way she erased me from my own home. It was never about family. It was about control. Marianne leaned toward her. Why are you telling us this now? Because I can't watch her destroy another life, Beatrice said, voice shaking. I've covered for her too long. I thought I was protecting her, but all I've done is enable her. I looked at the woman across from me, the same one who'd once told me to go live in a nursing home, and all I could see was a broken mother. Then you'll have to help us fix this, I said. She nodded. Whatever it takes. We gathered the papers and left. My mind raced the whole ride home. My heart hurt for my son, but he needed to know. He had to face the truth before she ruined him completely. That evening I called Robert. He answered after 3 rings. Mom, we need to talk, I said. Now. When he arrived, I didn't waste time. I handed him the documents. He started reading, and I watched the color drain from his face. This can't be true, he whispered. She never was pregnant, I said. She lied to you. She's been lying since the day she walked into your life. He dropped the papers on the table, shaking his head. No, she wouldn't. She couldn't. She did, I said quietly. And she used you, just like she used everyone else. Robert sank to the floor, sobbing like the boy he once was. I gave her everything, Mom. Everything. I know, I whispered, kneeling beside him. And now you have to take it back. That night, Robert left Danielle. He packed a single suitcase, drove off, and didn't look back. Beatrice later told me Danielle disappeared, left town with what little cash she could grab. Weeks passed. Robert started therapy, got a new job, and rented a small place on his own. One afternoon, he showed up at my door with flowers. Cheap daisies, but they felt like gold. Mom, he said softly, I just came to say thank you for saving me when I didn't deserve it. I smiled, pulling him into a hug. That's what mothers do, son. We save our kids, even when they break our hearts first. He laughed a little, tears still in his eyes. I don't deserve you. No, I said, smiling. But I'm glad you're trying to. And as I closed the door that night, I realized something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the weight of what they did to you. I still sit by that little window every morning with my coffee. Sometimes Robert calls. Sometimes he visits. Danielle's gone for good, and honestly, that's a blessing. My daughter Marianne checks on me every day, and George visits on weekends. Life isn't perfect, but it's peaceful. And peace, after everything I've been through, feels like victory. Because I learned the hardest, most powerful truth of all. When you stand up for yourself, even if it means standing alone, you win.